You're standing on the dock where your grandfather taught you to tie your first sailing knot, where he shared stories of his Navy service, where your family gathered every summer for 3 generations. The morning sun reflects off the water just like it did when you were 8 years old. Listening to Grandpa's tales of adventure on the high seas, that's exactly where I was when my peaceful morning was shattered by the most entitled voice I'd ever heard. "Excuse me? You can't park that floating mansion here without paying your HOA fees." I turned around, coffee mug still in hand, thinking someone was pulling a prank. Standing at the edge of our private family dock was a woman who looked like she'd stepped out of a difficult people handbook. Designer sunglasses, perfectly styled hair, and that clipboard held like a weapon of mass destruction. This was Linda. Though everyone in the marina called her something else entirely. She'd recently bulldozed her way into becoming HOA president of a nearby community, and apparently thought her authority extended to the entire coastline. "Ma'am," I said, setting down my coffee and trying to keep my voice steady, "I think there's been a misunderstanding. This yacht belongs to my family, and this dock is on private property. It's been in our family for over 40 years. Her laugh was sharp enough to cut glass. "Private property or not, sweetie, anything over 20 feet falls under maritime community standards. That floating palace of yours owes $15,000 in back taxes." My heart started pounding, not from fear, but from sheer disbelief. This woman was trying to extort money from me while standing on land my grandfather had purchased with his own sweat and savings. "You're asking me to pay $15,000 to dock on my own family's property?" "I'm not asking, honey. I'm telling. You've got until Friday, or we'll make sure this pretty little boat finds a new home." As she strutted away, clipboard in hand, I felt something I hadn't experienced since I was a kid being bullied at school. But Linda had no idea what she'd just walked into. "See, my family isn't your typical American family. We don't just barbecue and watch football on Sundays. We're federal law enforcement, spread across multiple agencies. And we've spent our careers dealing with people who think they're above the law." If Linda wanted to play hardball, she was about to discover she'd challenged the wrong team. What happened next would be comical if it wasn't so infuriating. Linda didn't just demand money, she launched a full-scale harassment campaign. That would make a military general proud. Arrived at the dock the next morning to find our beautiful yacht, Grandpa's pride and joy, covered in bright orange violation notices. My hands shook as I read them. Violation. American flag displayed at improper height. Violation. Excessive reflective. Surfaces causing community disturbance. Violation. Operating marine engines without HOA marine permits? Marine permits? I'd been sailing these waters since I was 12 years old. My grandfather had taught me to respect the sea, to follow actual maritime law. Not some made-up rules from a power-hungry HOA president, but the worst was yet to come. On Wednesday, I found 3 men in construction vests attempting to board the yacht. My protective instincts kicked in immediately. "Hold on there, gentlemen. Can I see some identification?" The tallest one, clearly their leader, puffed out his chest. "We're here on official HOA business. We need to inspect this vessel for code violations." "Official business?" I stepped between them and the yacht. "Show me your credentials." They exchanged nervous glances. "We don't need credentials. The HOA sent us." "The HOA has no authority here. This is private property, and you're trespassing, lady." "You're interfering with an official investigation, no," I said firmly, feeling my family's strength flowing through me. "You're about to become part of an official investigation if you don't leave immediately." They left, muttering threats about liens and legal action. That evening, Linda returned with reinforcements, her husband, a man who looked like he'd been permanently sucking on sour candy. Wearing a t-shirt that read HOA Enforcement, they stood at the end of our dock, shouting about calling the Coast Guard and having our illegal vessel impounded. I called my mom that night, and for the first time in years, I heard something dangerous in her voice. "Sweetheart," she said quietly, "some people mistake kindness for weakness. It's time to show them the difference." My mother, you see. doesn't just work for the U.S. Marshals. She spent 25 years tracking down people who think they can intimidate others without consequences. Linda had just made the biggest mistake of her life. Linda's ego was about to write a check her authority couldn't. Cashed off Friday morning brought a certified letter that made my blood boil. It claimed our yacht now owed $50,000. In back taxes and penalties to the HOA, the letter bore an official-looking seal and cited maritime community bylaws that supposedly gave them authority over our private dock. When my father, 28 years with federal law enforcement, examined the documents, his expression turned grim. "Sweetheart," he said, putting on his reading glasses, "this isn't just harassment anymore. This is fraud. Look at this seal. It's a home-printed copy of some random government emblem. And these bylaws? Half of them are copied from a homeowners association in Florida, instead of confronting Linda directly. We decided to give her exactly what she wanted, an audience for her performance. We set up discreet recording equipment around the dock and waited. We didn't have to wait long. Saturday morning, Linda arrived with her husband and the same 3 inspectors, but this time, she'd brought a photographer and what looked like a legal document by the authority vested in me by the maritime community. "Standards Board," she announced loudly, clearly performing for her photographer. "I hereby declare this vessel seized for non-payment of community fees." I watched from the yacht's cabin window as she taped a large red notice to our door. "Seized by HOA authority vessel will be auctioned in 30 days. My grandfather's yacht, the boat where he'd taught me to navigate by the stars, where our family had scattered his ashes, where 3 generations of memories lived in every polished surface. That's when Linda made her fatal mistake. She instructed her photographer to document her officially seizing the vessel, creating a perfect record of her crimes. From behind the marina building, 2 unmarked vehicles approached quietly. Out stepped men and women in professional attire, badges clearly visible. "Ma'am," the lead agent said calmly, "we need to speak with you about the fraudulent documents, attempted extortion, an illegal seizure you've just committed." The color drained from Linda's face faster than water from a broken dam. This is just a misunderstanding," her husband stammered. "No, sir," my uncle replied, stepping forward with his own badge. "This is a federal crime." What happened next was 20 years of federal law enforcement training put to perfect use. The agents separated Linda and her crew for individual questioning. At first, she maintained her act, insisting she was just doing her job and protecting community values. But when faced with video evidence of her fraudulent documents, trespassing, and attempted theft of private property, her story crumbled like a house of cards in a hurricane. Her husband broke first, admitting that Linda had convinced the entire HOA board to create fake fees so they could pocket the money. What had started as petty power plays had evolved into organized fraud targeting multiple families in the area, the investigation revealed. Linda had been running similar scams for months, targeting elderly residents and anyone she perceived as vulnerable. She'd collected thousands in fake fees, threatened legal action with fraudulent documents, and used intimidation tactics that would make a mob boss proud as they led Linda away in handcuffs. She screamed about government overreach and conspiracy. The irony was so thick, you could cut it with a butter knife. Standing on that dock, surrounded by my family, not just federal agents, but the people who'd taught me that justice isn't just a word. It's a responsibility. I felt my grandfather's presence. "You know," my dad said, putting his arm around my shoulders, "Grandpa always said the ocean doesn't care about your title or your ego. It only respects those who respect it." I smiled, looking out at the water where Grandpa had taught me that freedom isn't free. It has to be protected from people who think they can take it away. We untied the yacht that afternoon and sailed into the sunset, leaving behind a dock that was finally free from tyranny. The American flag flew proudly from our mast, at exactly the right height according to actual maritime law. Some battles are worth fighting, especially when they're fought for family freedom and the memory of those who came before us. And somewhere up there, I know Grandpa was smiling. "What would you have done in this situation? Have you ever dealt with an HOA overstepping their authority? Share your stories in the comments below and don't forget to subscribe for more tales of justice served.